now, because Manchester United are about to make decisions that could completely transform their midfield for the next 5 years. One deal is already done. A second target is moving closer to Old Trafford, and a blockbuster move for Sandro Tonali has just taken a dramatic turn. The next 72 hours could define Michael Carrick's entire rebuild, and what we're hearing today changes everything. Let's get into it properly. Sandro Tonali, start here, because over the last 2 weeks, the narrative has been building beautifully. United are frontrunners. Carrick wants him above everyone. Newcastle are warming to the idea of selling. The agent is working the phones across Europe. Some inside St James's Park expect him to leave. All of that remains true, but today, a new piece of information has entered the equation that complicates the dream significantly. Manchester United's interest in Sandro Tonali is not expected to lead to a summer move. Although Michael Carrick and the Ineos hierarchy are admirers of Tonali, the overall cost of securing his services has forced the club to shelve any plans for a transfer. Now, before the panic fully sets in, and I know some of you are already typing in the comments, let me break down exactly what is happening here, because it is more layered than that headline suggests. The core issue is the gap between what United are willing to offer and what Newcastle are demanding. Newcastle's asking price is set at around 115 million, and United's current offer is reportedly worth between 90 and 100 million euros. That gap, 15 to 25 million euros, depending on which figure you use, is what is currently blocking this deal from moving forward. While Newcastle want around 115 million euros, United are closer to 90 to 100 million euros due to a tight transfer budget under Ineos, who are already committing heavily this window with multiple targets. Despite the gap, United remain in a strong position. They are still considered the front-runners ahead of Arsenal and Manchester City, with no club currently outbidding them. Tonali is also open to a move. His agent is actively exploring options, and Newcastle are not fully confident of keeping him long-term. This is not a collapsed deal. It's a live negotiation, and the outcome now depends on whether United increase their bid or Newcastle soften their stance. Determined but disciplined. That is the balance United are trying to strike, and the next 2 weeks will tell us whether that determination can survive Newcastle's stubborn valuation. Watch this one very, very carefully. Now let's move to a story that appears to be gathering serious momentum. Matheus Fernandes. This situation has gone from background interest to active discussions. Manchester United and West Ham are now reported to be holding club-to-club talks regarding a potential transfer. That is a significant development. Once clubs start speaking directly, things become far more serious. West Ham know exactly how valuable Fernandes has become. After an impressive season, they have reportedly fixed their asking price at around £85 million. It's a huge fee. And United are still deciding how far they are willing to go. However, there are reasons for optimism. Reports suggest the players' representatives are confident a move to Old Trafford can be achieved. Even more importantly, Fernandes himself is believed to be very interested in joining Manchester United. There is also the Bruno Fernandes factor. The United captain knows the player well from international duty and has reportedly spoken positively about him. That kind of endorsement matters. But United face a major threat. Real Madrid, and more specifically, Jose Mourinho. Reports claim Mourinho is keen on bringing the Portuguese midfielder to Madrid. That changes the equation immediately. Manchester United can compete with almost anyone financially. Competing with Real Madrid's history and prestige is much harder. This is why United cannot afford to drag negotiations out for weeks. If they want Fernandes, they need to act decisively, because the longer this story runs, the greater the risk of another club stepping in. Next up is Alex Scott. And honestly, this may be the most underrated story of the entire window. While everyone focuses on the massive names, Scott has quietly developed into one of England's most exciting young midfielders. Now, a major opportunity may be opening up. Reports suggest Scott has not yet agreed a new contract at Bournemouth, despite being offered improved terms. That immediately puts clubs like Manchester United on alert. When a player delays signing a new deal while interest continues to grow, questions naturally emerge about his future. Scott has impressed with his energy, technical quality, ball-carrying ability and maturity. At just 22 years old, he already looks comfortable operating at a very high Premier League level. Manchester United have reportedly been monitoring him closely and maintaining contact with people around the player. Carrick is believed to admire him, and there are reports of discussions between the clubs having already taken place. Of course, United are not alone. Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham and several other clubs are all watching closely. Competition will be fierce. But here's what makes this particularly interesting. The reported fee is around £60 million. Compared to the figures being discussed for Tonali and Fernandes, that starts to look like a very attractive investment. Scott is younger, Premier League proven, and potentially still years away from reaching his peak. This is exactly the type of signing that could define the next era of Manchester United. Now let's talk about Lewis Hall, because this story is more complicated than some reports suggest. There is no doubt that United like the player. There is also no doubt that Hall's profile fits what the club wants. Young, athletic, technically strong and capable of solving a position that has caused problems for years. Reports suggest Hall would be interested in a move if the opportunity became realistic. On paper, that sounds promising. But there is one major issue: Newcastle. From Newcastle's perspective, there has been no significant movement. No formal discussions, no indication that the player wants to leave, and no intention from the club to sell. That creates a very different picture. United may admire the player may admire United, but admiration alone doesn't complete transfers. For this deal to become realistic, something has to change. Either Newcastle soften their stance, or Hall actively pushes for a move. At this moment, neither has happened. So while the interest appears genuine, this feels less advanced than some of the headlines suggest. And that brings us to the bigger picture. When you look at Tonali, Fernandes, Scott and Hall together, a pattern becomes clear. Manchester United are targeting youth, athleticism, technical quality and players who can improve for years to come. This doesn't look like random spending. It looks like a plan. Tonali would bring leadership and control. Fernandes would add creativity and dynamism. Scott would provide energy and long-term potential. Hall would strengthen a problem position immediately. These aren't luxury signings. They address real needs. And that's why this transfer window feels different. For the first time in a long time, there appears to be a clear football strategy behind the decisions being made. Whether United complete all of these deals remains to be seen, but the direction is becoming increasingly obvious. And if they get this summer right, it could shape the club for years. Now I want to hear from you. If you could sign only one of these four players, who would it be? Tonali, Fernandes, Alex Scott,